All right, good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome everyone to the Demountable Concepts online webinar about wine and spirits, warehouse on wheels, remote distribution. If you're listening, you're probably faced with some of the challenges that our current customers faced. You might see an opportunity to eliminate cross-docking, or you might have some other ways to leverage this system. But either way, we're going to cover a lot of good information and how this is used in your industry, so you can really hone in on how your company can benefit. A couple of housekeeping items though before I start. Everybody's in listen only mode throughout the webinar. So if you have questions come up, you can do two things. One, you can submit them right away through the GoToWebinar app, and someone will be happy to answer them as I go through the presentation, or you can hold off on asking till the end. I will allow for some time at the end to submit the questions direct to me, and I'd be happy to address them live there for you. But I want to thank everybody for the time, and I'll give you a quick rundown of what I'll cover. So the first thing is I'll give you an overview of us, who we are, Demountable, and then we'll talk about the system, the warehouse and wheel system, and the benefits, the components, the equipment options involved, some additional support items, and like I'd mentioned before, I'll give you some time at the end if there's some questions that you'd like to submit to me. And this should run about 20, 30 minutes tops throughout for the information. So with that, let's hop right in. So Demountable Concepts, who are we? Well, we're a US-based company located in New Jersey, and we've been in business for over 30 years. And the wine and spirits industry has always been a top candidate for our solutions, and we've been helping many companies across the country, including some of the top distributors in the industry. And we manufacture the demountable equipment at our facility, and then we work with the truck dealers and the bodybuilders to put everything together and deliver the best-in-class warehouse on wheels product to the end user. How we do that so well is really what's displayed on your screen, and it describes, who we are as individuals. And this is our company as a whole. It's our 6 core values, and it's how we work so well together internally, whether it's sales, operations, engineering, fabrication. We all work so well together to build this product, but we don't just do it internally. We exert these values outward to our customers, and we like to align our values with our customers' values as well, because we always have the customer's best interest in mind, so that we can ultimately provide a great product, be a team, and then grow with you together. And to help do all that, we have a great process in place, one that's evolved over the 30 years that we've been in business, and it's provided the support to our customers throughout the entire interaction. And really, what this means to you is that at Demountable, we're going to be there to help you from the beginning of the process when we're asking you questions, so that we can learn about your business and your operation, ultimately to go back, engineer the best solution for you, build it, deliver it, and then train your team on it. But then after you're running it and seeing the benefits, we're still going to be there with you to support you and your team through any questions or concerns that arise throughout the life of that equipment. So really, you should feel confident that you're not just buying a piece of equipment, but you're also getting a partner that's going to invest in the furthering success of your operation. But now, as we transition, into the actual system itself, warehouse on wheels, and how it works, I want to touch on one other important item first, and that's sustainability. Everyone's probably aware there's a huge focus around becoming more sustainable. Companies are doing it, they're pushing it, putting deadlines on it for themselves, and to be able to leave less of a carbon footprint. So it's more important now than ever to ensure that decisions around fleet and distribution involve less of an impact on our environment. So our system falls into that bucket because it involves less idle time for the trucks, a reduction in brick and mortar facilities, lower energy usage because you're talking about smaller facilities in some cases, and then in other cases, there's an opportunity to reduce the number of power units in the fleet. So overall, you're not just having a positive impact on your operation, but you're also having one on the environment around you. So let's actually talk about the system itself at this point. Again, mentioned it's called Warehouse on Wheels, and what is it? Well, it's a lean, efficient delivery operation, and it's meant to grow your market reach while reducing overhead costs like cross-docking, driver windshield time, and warehouse labor. And it's typically meant for making deliveries in a remote market located about 150 to 300 miles away from your distribution center. It's similar to like a line haul doubles operation, but with the final mile delivery vehicle being a straight truck instead of a tractor trailer. Now, before I move on to the process, it's important to note that with this system, and you can see it in the picture on your screen, every truck body has a rear door, but also a front door, so that you can have all 4 of those bodies on that trailer, as you see in the picture, and load them from back to front. So I could walk out of that dock into that first body and walk all the way to the front of the trailer, the front body, because every body has a front and rear door. And this saves a lot of dock space, but it also speeds up the loading process and the demountable process, which you'll understand here as I go through the process. So speaking of which, I'm going to bring you through a series of graphics, and it's broken up into sections. Each section will light up green as I bring you through each step in detail. So in this example, we have 4 12-foot truck bodies mounted on a 51-foot demountable trailer being loaded at the dock at the distribution center. Now again, these bodies have front and rear doors, so the product is being loaded in route order, and it's not touched again until it comes off the final mile straight truck in that remote market at your customer's store. Now, this process, this loading process you're seeing, is usually happening in the early evening hours so that the bodies are fully loaded for the line haul tractor drivers to take later on that night. Now, when it comes to the line haul, usually between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., these loaded trailers are transported to a remote market 150 to 300 miles away, like I said, via a tractor. And the tractor trailer drops all 4 of the 12-foot bodies in a secured remote yard, and then they pick up 4 empty 12-foot bodies from the day prior, and those empties are usually loaded maybe with some trash, some returns, or broken product, and the empties are brought back to the main distribution center for cleaning and prep for the next night's loading and line haul process. But now that we have 4 loaded 12-foot bodies staged in this secure yard 300 miles away, the straight truck drivers show up for their shift first thing in the morning, and they each take 5 minutes to back under and mount each body on their respective trucks. They're then able to leave right away and start making deliveries immediately. So it's important to note that these trucks and drivers, again, they're all stationed remotely in this delivery market 150 to 300 miles away from your distribution center. So this allows them, these delivery drivers, to spend more time making deliveries and completing their routes before heading back to the yard at the end of the day, dropping off the empty bodies so that the tractor trailer driver can come and pick them up later that night. Now, and I mentioned in the beginning, this solution addresses many challenges in remote market distribution. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring you through some of the things that our customers have been able to solve as they've adapted this solution within their operation. The first one I'll touch on are redundant operations like cross-docking and warehousing expenses. So, in a typical operation, you have a main distribution center feeding regional cross-docks where product is line hauled from the distribution center to the cross-dock, is unloaded off the trailer, cross-docked through the warehouse into a box truck, your delivery truck, and then it's delivered. This is resulting in more product touches, which you're now risking high product loss and breakage. You're also talking about warehouse labor to move the material from the trailer to the truck, but also, in the big ticket item, the millions of dollars in warehouse lease and operating costs that you pay annually to operate these regional cross docks. But by using the warehouse and wheel system, you're going to go ahead and cut out the need to touch that product multiple times after it's initially loaded at the distribution center. So you're going to reduce your breakage, and you're going to reduce the need for any sort of warehouse labor costs at those regional cross docks. But most importantly, it offers the option to consolidate your inventory into a centralized distribution center and eliminate the high cost warehouse locations. Now, sticking with these warehouse challenges, we'll go into redundant facilities and equipment and labor. These locations come with a lot of maintenance. utility costs and lease costs, as I'm sure you're aware. So by eliminating that from your operation, you can effectively free up capital in your budget to improve other areas of your operation while also having more control over your delivery process. Now, when it comes to your delivery process, that even becomes more predictable as well. So we've had customers, instead of cross-docking, they'll send their straight trucks direct from the distribution center to the final mile market 2 to 4 hours away. So they had their delivery drivers spending 2 to 4 hours in a truck before even making their first delivery. And then, but after using Warehouse on Wheels, they were able to cut out the delays like unexpected accidents causing traffic or just rush hour traffic. And then just reduce that windshield time to free up more time to make those revenue generating deliveries in that remote market. But an added bonus that was found was an expansion of the driver pool selection as well. So we all know how hard it is to find drivers today. But now you have that ability to hire drivers in multiple markets because those straight truck delivery drivers, again, are stationed and live in those remote markets 300 miles from your DC. So you have a greater selection of drivers to pick from. So companies have seen greater success in finding and hiring new drivers using this. And the last challenge I'll mention, which is great for everybody, is focuses on growth. So as companies test the waters in new markets and grow to the point where they believe a physical location is necessary, they're faced with a lot of overhead to make that happen. But with the Warehouse on Wheels system, you can simply deploy this solution immediately in a new remote market and begin making deliveries without the need for any type of warehouse. All you need is a small office and a secured lot to swap those bodies. And lastly, since the system is so flexible versus, say, a permanent solution like a cross dock, you can scale up and scale down the amount of Warehouse on Wheels equipment needed based off of the fluctuating demand in your remote market. So it's portable. You can shift it from market A to market B if market B is showing more demand, say, in the third quarter. So it's very flexible, very versatile. But overall, it's no secret why so many distributors use this method. And here's just a snapshot, a few examples of some of our customers that use it in the field today. But I'd also like to expand on some of those that you see on your screen as to how they've used this and what they've seen by using it. So the first example I'll use is RNDC, or Republic National Distributing. When they adopted this, they used it in Virginia first, and they were able to consolidate 3 regional warehouses into one main distribution center in Ashland. And effectively were able to save about $1.5 million on average per cross stock eliminated, which is great from a P&L standpoint. But as they started using it, they got creative, and they found out that the way that they had their remote markets stationed from Ashland to Manassas and Ashland to Chesapeake was far enough to justify this, but it was close enough where they could deliver both remote markets with one line haul driver every single night. So I'll kind of expand on that quickly just so you understand. They have a line haul driver take 4 loaded bodies from Ashland and drop them off in Manassas, take 4 empties back from Manassas to Ashland, and then hook up to 4 more loaded bodies, go to Chesapeake, drop 4 loaded bodies in Chesapeake, and bring 4 more empties back to Ashland again. So in one night with one driver, they delivered 8 routes. Extremely efficient, if you ask me. Another good example is Georgia Crown. They took it up another level. They said, we're going to shut down 5 regional warehouses and consolidate them all into one main distribution center in McDonough, Georgia. Now, by doing that, they saved so much. And I'd mentioned this before, they were able to kind of divert that capital to buying state-of-the-art material handling systems for that centralized distribution center. Because they had so much product in one area, they thought that it was necessary to have this high-tech sorting system, but it not only helped with the volume, it also helped with the speed of loading these trailers every single night. And now they get their line haul drivers out quicker and deliver to their remote markets quicker every single night overnight. So these are just a couple examples of the many companies using this and seeing the benefits, but I want to make sure that you understand what makes up Warehouse on Wheels. So what I'll do is I'll touch on some of the components for each section of the system so that you understand what it's made of. And the first one I'll talk about is the chassis. So the chassis lifter is the component that raises and lowers the body on and off the chassis. We have two types. One is the hydraulic, which is on the left-hand side. That's our legacy system that we've been using for 30 years. And the other is as a newer development, it's our airlift system. Now we're going to work with you and our engineers to find the best solution for your operation, as there's benefits to both. But these systems can be installed at our facility in New Jersey, or we can ship a kit to one of our remote installers throughout the country, depending on the scope of the project. Now, continuing with the chassis, there are some options available. Yes, you can still put a liftgate on the chassis, on the delivery vehicle, and we'll make a recommendation based off of prior jobs. However, if you're set on a specific liftgate manufacturer, just know that we work with all major liftgate manufacturers in the industry. And in a similar fashion, you can also put a ramp on the delivery truck as well, which is the most popular option in this industry, as that's what most delivery vehicle drivers use is a ramp up and down. And it operates the same as a normal ramp on a normal truck. Again, the lift gate, and one other thing I'll note is the lift gate and the ramp both stay with the delivery chassis when it's demounted from the body. Now, the second part of this system is the body. And what you see on your screen is our portion of the actual body. It's called a demountable body base frame. We build this at our facility. We'll send it to the bodybuilder. They will then lay the floor down and build the walls up exactly to your spec. The only difference is it's now a demountable body with legs. And again, I know I've said it enough times, but just to drive it home, these bodies have front and rear roll doors. But for this operation, these bodies can be built in 12 feet, 17 foot, and 26 foot lengths, at 96 inches and 102 inches wide. And the other note that I'll mention on here that there isn't a picture of, but we can refrigerate these bodies if needed. And again, that's something that we'll work with you on depending on your needs and your product to figure out the best solution for that. The last piece of the system is our semi-trailer, and what you see on your screen is actually a trailer built for 4 12-foot bodies, but we can also do one for 3 17-foot or 2 26-foot bodies. Again, something that we would work with you on, get information on, so that we can recommend the best setup for you. But since I can't bring you this equipment in person at the moment, I just put a couple of videos together so you can get an idea of what this all looks like. The first video I'll show you is how our legs work. Really simple operation. These are our legacy legs. They just simply pull out about 4 feet. They swing down, a brace is applied via a pin, and then the leg is simply pushed in, and you do the same thing for the other 3, and the body's ready to be demounted. Those legs can handle 24,000 pounds minus the weight of the body, so they're plenty strong enough for your payloads. And the second video I'll show you is just a simple, quick video of a truck pulling out from underneath and backing underneath the body, just to give you an idea of how efficient the process really is. And as you can imagine, that process you just saw is the same for the tractor trailer that pulls out and backs underneath the bodies, just double the size. So the last thing I'll mention, and this is extremely important, is driver training. So we understand that we're giving you new equipment that you never used before. So we want to ensure that our new customers and new users are comfortable with it. So that's why we do driver training for every single new market that Warehouse on Wheels is deployed in. So we spend a whole day training drivers, supervisors, warehouse personnel, maintenance personnel, basically anyone who's going to touch the equipment. And additionally, we provide manuals for future reference, We have a website that's a plethora of information and training videos to follow up on training. And lastly, we can even set your team up for recurring recertification training annually or biannually. So we can definitely work with you to be flexible on that. So to wrap up with some next steps, we should definitely connect on setting up to go have a quick call to go over your operation and how this would fit. Then we could see about arranging a demo, whether it be a live one once travel opens back up, or we can maybe arrange stopping by a current customer's yard to see it, or we can even do a virtual demo with you via like FaceTime or Zoom. And then once we know exactly what the best solution is for your company, we can get you some pricing for some budgeting purposes. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out to us. My information is on the left. I work a lot with our liquor distributors. My colleague Derek, also very knowledgeable. We can both help you out. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and leave this up on the screen so you can take my information down. But if you have any questions you want to send in, feel free to go ahead and type them in, submit them. I'd be happy to go through it. Right now, one I did get was, can the equipment be leased? The answer to that is yes. We work with all the leasing companies in the US. In fact, leasing is, believe it or not, a popular option when it comes to the warehouse on wheels system. And that's because when you talk about going from a traditional distribution method to warehouse on wheels, you're looking at those delivery straight trucks being stationed, say 300 miles away from your DC, and they'll never be back to your distribution center. So having a leasing company's maintenance network is a very attractive option for companies to be able to maintain not only the equipment that's, back home every night at the distribution center, but those, 4 or 8 straight trucks you have 300 miles away, you can now bank on that leasing company to take care of the maintenance needs. So there's different ways it can be structured, and we work with the leasing companies to figure out the best way to structure that deal for you financially. Another one I got, the difference between the airlift and the hydraulic lift. The big difference is weight. Our hydraulic system has a lot of equipment on it as far as the cylinders, the hydraulic cylinders in the front and the rear, the motor. So you can imagine it adds a considerable amount of weight. But when you compare the two, the airlift system's about 1,000 pounds less in weight than the hydraulic system. But there are some limiting factors. And again, that's why we would want to understand your operation better to make the best recommendation on which one would work. That's another good one. So do I need a new lifter every time I get a new truck? That's a great question. And the answer to that is not necessarily. Most of the time, you don't need to buy a whole new lift system for your delivery straight trucks every time you get a new truck. What our customers will do is, on a typical, say, 7-8 year truck cycle, they will take the old chassis and remove the hydraulic lifter and then simply do a refurbishment on it, which is usually about half the cost of a new lifter, and then put it on the new chassis. So you don't have to pay full price, full cost of a brand new lifter every time you cycle your trucks. They will last with that refurb at about year 7 or 8, about 15, 16 years. Same thing with the bodies. As long as you take care of the bodies, really the bodies are being used half the time when you think about it. So they live double the life usually. So again, you can get a good 15, 16 years. Trailer, same deal. As long as you keep up with the maintenance cycle on it, there are trailers out there that are running 16 plus years old as well. So, you make that initial investment, and then you can imagine that ROI just piles up over the life of this equipment because it lasts so long. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming in. And like I said, feel free to take my info down. If anything comes up after this, you can always shoot me an email or give me a ring. I'd be happy to go through anything else with you. A recording of the webinar will be sent out around, I believe, 4 o'clock. You should get an email with a link. You feel free to download that for future reference. There's also a PDF that you can download right now via the GoToWebinar app here. It's all inclusive. It basically covers everything I covered here, and you know, feel free to have that for future reference as well. So I want to thank everyone again for joining me and setting aside the time to learn more about this system. Hopefully you've come up with some ways to leverage this and benefit your operation in the future, and we really look forward to speaking with you more about it. So I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and we'll be talking to everyone soon.